Hello and welcome back to Biology with Liz. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a little bit about GMOs and some of the history of GMOs. So before we start, we got to ask ourselves, what exactly are GMOs? So the GMO stands for genetically modified organisms. Animals, fruits, and vegetables can be GMOs. So what does this exactly mean? So first of all, it all starts in the DNA. So don't forget about that. DNA is like a strand of genetic information and it stores everything about what makes you. Because genes decide your traits and genes are located in the DNA, they decide what traits will show up. Scientists have figured out by now what happens if you manipulate the genes and how to manipulate them. They can decide what shows through the vegetable, fruit, or animal. There are many different ways in which they do this, like rearranging the code or taking genes from one plant and adding it to another plant. This is a chart from Biology Fort Field that explains all the different types of GMOs. As you can see, there's combining two sexual compatible species to create a variety with the desired traits of the parents. Then there's multigynous, I can't pronounce that. The use of mutagenes, such as radioactivity, to induce random mutations, creating a desired trait. And then there's polyploid, manipulations of the number of chromosomes in a crop to impact fertility. Then there's fusion of cells or cell components to transfer traits between species. And there's also addition of genes from any species to create a new variety of desired traits. There's the last but not least is the use of enzyme systems to modify DNA directly in the cell. As you can see, this is where some of the controversial issues come into play. As some people don't like some of the six because it could lead to vaccinations not doing any good to you. Personally, I like crossbreed. I prefer this one. I'm okay with crossbreeding. I'm okay with this one. I'm also okay with this one. But I can really see why people wouldn't like this one, transgenesis or geno editing, because I feel like it gets a little messy there. And personally, I feel like the three that I pointed out, I feel like farmers have been doing that for centuries to get the desired traits, and before we even figured what it even was. So now on to moving on. So we had to learn about some of the history of GMOs. So, some of the history of GMOs. In this video, we're just going to focus on food GMOs, and we're going to leave human GMOs along with animal GMOs out of this, because I believe that those two topics need a video of their own. So the term GMO is used very loosely in the community around the world, and it ranges from slightly modified to heavily modified. As mentioned before, farmers have been doing this from the beginning of time by modifying traits of the plants as they grow in order to get the best crop. They do this by crossbreeding along with using chemicals. A good example of a food GMO is corn, which has been modified over time to make sure that rodents stay away from the crops, or like the banana, which looks like nothing like it once did. This is a picture of a banana GMOs, and as you can see, it's like there's seeds all over the place, doesn't look as good, and you have this, and if you ever eat a banana, there's like no seeds at all, it's just like the sweet yellow fruit instead of the yellow fruit with these little seed things inside. So back to the term of GMOs, there's a lot of organizations that have their own definition of what a GMO is. According to the UN, GMOs are not a good word to use because genetically modified organisms is too harsh of a word because it was used to scare people away back when the term GMO even came out, and scare them away and to create hysteria among the community. And people can't help but think of a Frankenstein hybrid when they hear the word GMO. I mean, sometimes when I hear the word GMO, I honestly think of, oh, bad. I associate GMOs with a negative. So the term that they like to use is LMO, which stands for a living modified organism. And the UN gave their own definition of this by saying a living modified organism, LMO, is defined as any living organism that possesses a novel combination of genetic material obtained through the use of modern biochemistry. In everyday usage, LMOs are usually considered to be the same as GMOs, but the definitions and interpretations of the terms vary widely. There's other organizations that have their own definition of what exactly is a GMO. Like one organization uses the definition, the term genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, means an organism in which a genetic material has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally through fertilization and or natural recombination. GMOs can be plants, animals, or microorganisms such as bacteria, parasites, and fungi. And another organization likes to use the term, the use of recombinant DNA technology to transfer genetic material from one organism to another, resulting the organism to be referred to as transgenic. So as you can see, this is where the term GMO is used very, very widely and differently. So it's kind of hard to define GMO as one thing because everyone has their own definitions. So why GMOs? So personally, I feel like certain GMOs are okay, as I mentioned before, because I feel like people, farmers, have been doing this for centuries, for thousands of years. So I personally don't find anything wrong. If I'm being honest with you, I'm okay with I'm okay with a lot of the techniques that they use. But because of certain laws in the US, people actually don't know if their food is a GMO or not, and I can see why that would bother people, because I feel like everyone has a right to know what they're eating, and they have a right to decide if they want to eat GMOs or just buy the original plant. But GMOs have a lot of pros. First of all, they're cheaper, and they actually make food last longer. And at the end of the day, I personally can't taste the difference. So some people might argue with me on that point. So that's all for today. So join me next time with Biology with Liz.